Two words are often used to describe Yatsubane's Crimzon Clover: God tier. As far as doujin shooting games go, Crimzon Clover stands as a testament to the greatness that can be achieved in the indie circuit, with 2D sprite-based shooting gameplay that rivals even the masters at Cave.
Crimzon Clover has an incredible fan-favorite history and is regarded as one of the very best STGs, period. Now, it's available to the masses on Steam in the updated Crimzon Clover World Ignition, released in June of 2014. Based on the Nessica live arcade version that saw release in Japan in 2013, Crimzon Clover can finally set the world ablaze with its ultra-sharp gameplay. Let's take a closer look.
The gameplay in Crimzon Clover World Ignition is pretty unbelievable. A lot of the indies can get their control pretty tight, but the ultra razor precise control in Crimzon Clover is something that few games have, period. The 8-way control your ship has is complemented by a very tiny hitbox as well, allowing players to traverse the bullet-riddled playfield easily and efficiently.
There are 3 ships players can choose from on the outset, each with their own speed and fire patterns, making for a varied enough roster that players with different styles can pick up and play the game the way they're comfortable with. There's even an unlockable ship to work towards, adding replayability to the game.
When it comes to taking out the dense swarms of enemies you'll encounter, Crimzon Clover has you covered. In addition to a powerful rapid shot, you can also lock onto a vast number of enemies with your secondary fire button. While this is happening, your main shot will be focused forward and your movement will slow like many of Cave's games we've seen in the past. Releasing the secondary button will launch a flurry of homing ordnance at everything that has a marker attached. But what if you need more power? Crimzon Clover doesn't have a traditional power-up system, but what it offers is far more interesting.
As you shoot at and defeat your enemies, a gauge will start to fill in the top right-hand corner. There is a marker at which point a bomb can be used to damage enemies and clear away their shots in a pinch. But a full charge will enable break mode, where players' shots and homing attacks are dramatically more powerful. You can even enable double break mode for even more intense payload. Break mode and double break mode is indicated by a gauge in the top left when activated, but care should be taken not to get hit or use a bomb, as break mode will disengage under those conditions. Break mode also helps in scoring, which we'll get to in a second.
In the case of 2-player games, the energy levels are shared between both ships, so engaging your break technique will happen for both players at once. Either player can engage the break as well, which helps in avoiding death on either side.
When bosses or mid-bosses are destroyed, a spinning bonus will be dropped, which can be helpful in several different ways. By collecting the icon of your choice, you can quickly replenish energy levels, gain massive amounts of bonus stars, or even earn extra lives.
Crimzon Clover World Ignition would be worth its asking price with just the main game version alone, but it also includes 3 more game modes for players looking for new spins on the standard formula. Boost mode allows players infinite boosts so long as they don't die or use bombs. This can lead to a huge score payout, and it makes the game somewhat easier in terms of raw firepower, but enemy shots will be greater in number.
Unlimited is a super punishing mode of play that takes the somewhat tame difficulty and ramps it up to the max. Bullet density and numbers are extreme in this mode, and unskilled players will have a very hard time getting through it without continuing. Anyone who enjoyed D-Force should be forced to 1cc this mode as penance.
Finally, there's also a time attack mode that pits players against a timed, unique stage that not only has some pretty fierce enemy opposition, but also infinite lives. However, both score attack and unlimited are not available in novice mode. We love score attack modes here on Bullet Heaven, and this one stands as strong as the rest of Crimzon Clover for score chasers everywhere.
One caveat to the gameplay, especially in 2-player, is the phenomenon known as bullet drift, where enemy shots will drift on screen as another player moves in a direction that will pan the playfield while another player is compensating for a bullet's trajectory. A lot of cheap deaths can result from this in the 2-player mode specifically, so be sure to take that into account. Regardless, there's a lot to do in Crimzon Clover, and it's not just intense, but pretty fun to play as well.
Scoring in Crimzon Clover takes a 2-tiered approach, with straight point multipliers and star points, which combine to form the total score. Collecting as many stars as possible leads to the highest point payouts, and knowing when to use your break techniques is key to getting the biggest payouts. Killing larger enemies will also convert their shots into stars for even bigger payouts as well.
The rate by which multipliers are awarded goes based on how many enemies are locked on at once. With a full lock-on, a multiplier of 9.6 is common, though this can be boosted into the double digits in co-op play and applies to enemy destruction points. Meanwhile, the amount of stars collected will multiply base points for each obtained, and this multiplier can go into the thousands.
Bonuses for total stars collected as well as no-miss bonuses and more are tallied up at the end of each stage and add to the total, typical of most modern shooting games. Life-stock totals also account for a rather sizable bonus at the end of the game as well.
Like Ikaruga before it, the scores collected by both players are tallied together, meaning that there's no competitive requirement for the highest score between the two. This makes the scoring component just as good even in a two-player game, especially since, unlike Ikaruga, there's nothing to break any sort of chain. Two-player games actually enhance the overall score.
All of these scoring rules apply to every mode of play, including the score attack mode. In the case of break mode, you will receive a huge bonus for having boost engaged for as long as possible. As the circular gauge around the break counter makes it all the way around, the bonus will be awarded, and it is typically ginormous. The score attack mode in particular also has additional caravan-style score bonuses for getting large kill change, which begs players to increase their bullet dodging skills for insane timed scores. While the scoring is pretty easy, most scores can get into the hundreds of billions by game end. True mastery of these mechanics is what will keep players coming back for more, especially with the worldwide leaderboards and Steam achievement requirements. As far as indie games go, especially in the sprite-based department, Crimzon Clover rivals even K with this fantastic 2D presentation. Yatsubane has seriously set the bar for 2D indie production values with its awesome, vibrant visual design and great sound.
The sprite work here is better than even some of the licensed Xbox 360 fare, with sharp imagery, large elements and smooth animation that you would swear come from a much larger production studio. Better still is that, despite so much going on screen, Crimzon Clover will run easily at 60 frames per second, even on lower spec machines, thanks to some amazing optimization.
Complementing this awesome visual design is a pretty great original soundtrack that captures the essence of each mission rather well, with fitting tunage that is sure to get your foot tapping. Stage 2 has one of my favorites to date. Even the sound is well produced, despite some of those classically typical every doge in SFX that springs up every now and again. It all sounds great when it all comes together though.
The UI in Crimzon Clover is nice and simple, which makes navigation through its menus a snap. As with most modern shooting games of its kind, it also has true Tate support, allowing for players with vertical monitors to play the game in all of its tremendously smooth splendor, with almost no loss of screen real estate. Though people with 4 to 3 monitors will still get sidebars because of its firm 16:9 aspect ratio.
Good thing then that a very recent update allows players to stretch out the screen to their liking to fit any screen type. Awesome. As far as shooting games go, especially on Steam, Crimzon Clover World Ignition offers one of the very best 2D shooting experiences there could be on PC and beyond. God tier though? Well, we'll see how it stacks up. Razorsharp Control means that moving any of the 4 ships in Crimzon Clover World Ignition is effortlessly smooth.
Two-player games will suffer from some serious bullet drift though.
Crimzon Clover World Ignition has some serious fangs, but it eases players into its true intensity very well.
This game is great for novices and veterans alike.
5 stages would be a little on the short side, but Crimzon Clover World Ignition's 4 modes adds quite a bit of replayability.
Worldwide leaderboards add even more gameplay to the already impressive amount World Ignition has.
Crimzon Clover has some serious visual chops with impressive sprites and some damn fine explosions.
The sheer amount of stuff on screen can get so extreme that you can't see the backgrounds.
The OST in Crimzon Clover World Ignition complements the great visual design.
Some of the sound effects are of the overused variety though.
With great scoring hooks and an awesome power-up system, Crimzon Clover World Ignition is a game that changes the formula you'd expect from a shooting game into something you'll want to come back to.
This is one of those rare games that does everything you know and love right and builds upon that to make something truly great.
Crimzon Clover is a game that we've been requested to do almost from the beginning of Bullet Heaven, and World Ignition makes this super polished gem so much more accessible than its physical Dojin version. Crimzon Clover World Ignition is definitely worth its god tier status, and it gets a 4.5 out of 5. You can get Crimzon Clover World Ignition for just $9.99 on Steam today. Don't miss out.
As with most modern shooting games of its kin,
It should actually be kind.